Welcome back to the Kyle Olson Show. Joining me now is Jerome Hudson. He's the entertainment editor at Breitbart News, one of my absolute favorite websites for no particular reason. And he wrote this very compelling piece, and I wanted to have him on because I started with Breitbart about 3 months ago, and my primary duty was to write about Joe Biden's campaign for president and his statements and, all the things he says. So in my coverage of Biden, I was paying attention to the statement that he made to the Breakfast Club the end of last week, where he made a very provocative and I think a lot of people saw it as an offensive statement. I know Jerome did. Basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but you ain't black if you support Donald Trump. And so, Jerome, tell me, what was your reaction to that statement?
I sort of had the wide-eyed wrinkles in your forehead. Oh my God, I can't believe he actually said that during a national broadcast interview. But then about 0.5 seconds later, I remembered that this is Joe Biden. I mean, this is the Joe Biden who described President Obama, or senator at the time, as clean and articulate, right? The same guy who made similarly racialist remark about Indians in package stores. I mean, Joe Biden certainly has a history of making sort of these statements that are just racially tinged, and they absolutely make no sense to the people who hear them. But this one I thought was particularly, I was insulted. Kyle, stopped being offended by remarks like this just years ago. I mean, I've been Black for 34 years, but I've been politically independent for about half my life, right? But I was insulted basically because, I mean, the right to vote, people died, and they died horrific deaths for people who look like me to have that right. And for Joe Biden to cheapen it down.
He said, I was being cavalier, and then he blamed the host. But what do you think that statement is really rooted in?
Joe Biden has been in politics for 4 or 5 decades. He's been around long enough, and he's garnered that lopsided support from Black Americans through most of his life in politics. And I write about this, that generally in any relationship, if someone knows that you're going to have what looks like blind fealty to them, I mean, you really can't expect them to not take you for granted. And generally speaking, historically, the Democratic Party has taken what is automatic support from Black voters for granted. And specifically as it pertains to Joe Biden, I mean, he said it himself. He's gotten upwards of over 90% support from Black voters. And so I think it imbues a sort of comfort for Joe Biden. He basically just knows that he doesn't have to work. He's going to get the support of a majority of Black people, regardless if that's true. I mean, setting aside all of the good things that Donald Trump has done to impact Black voters specifically, Joe Biden just believes in his head that he doesn't have to do anything. All he has to do is put his name on the ballot, and Black people will vote for him. Yes, that's probably one of the most insulting and cynical lines of thinking, but it is true. I mean, he said it. Like, I've gotten their support. He doesn't actually name, Kyle, any legislative action that he's taken, any sort of tangible thing that he's done to uplift the lives of all of these Black people who have supported him through the years. But again, he just quotes all the support that he's gotten.
Right. And in the clip that I played in the last segment, he said that the NAACP has endorsed him in his elections, which then forced them to come out and say, we don't endorse candidates. We've never endorsed him. As
I write, the man has a Dominion complex. And when it comes to Black Americans, he could not care less about them. I mean, and specifically because they have supported him, again, with what looks like blind fealty for so long, he just doesn't care. And so whatever comes out of his mouth as it pertains to their support, it is the mask slipping. Again, as I write, the Democratic Party was founded in part to protect the institution of chattel slavery in this country. I mean, we passed a Civil Rights Act that gave Black Americans in this country, we passed the Civil Rights Act in 1875, but the Democratic Party spent almost 100 years chipping away at that law. And Joe Biden is just he's a part of that legacy, right? He spent years in the 1970s, in the 1980s, working alongside of segregationist senators in the United States Senate. Last year, I mean, he was defending that record until the left turned on him and he realized that he had to apologize for that record. And so again, I mean, I don't blame Charlemagne the God saying that this isn't about Trump, this is about you, right? Like, because Joe Biden is everything that the political left and certainly the ideological left told us that they didn't want to represent the top of their ticket. Joe Biden's an old white millionaire who spent decades being a part of the establishment Democratic machine. And so it's an interesting situation that he's found himself in. Going forward, I do think, as I write about, that he will be given a pass. And again, I wanted to draw attention to what does it say about those people giving the pass to Joe Biden in the Democratic Party on the left? How is the Black vote valued and viewed if he could say something so blatantly and nakedly racist? Because I make the point, if Donald Trump had said this, it would weaken his candidacy so much to the point that it would be reasonable to question if he would be reelected.
So do you think giving him that pass, because I think it's also going on with the whole Tara Reade situation, where you have, and I'm sure that you've covered this, where you've got these celebrities coming out and saying, well, I believe her, but basically, and I'm paraphrasing, I hate Donald Trump more than what Joe Biden allegedly did, and therefore I'm still going to support Joe Biden. And so in this situation, I mean, it seems to be basically the same thing. So what does that say to you, that individuals who give him a pass on these sorts of statements, are they just more interested in defeating Donald Trump than actually having any sort of principles?
Sure, no. This is a test for so many people. Look, if you're a feminist and you believe in equality for women, if you're on the ideological left and you wanted to believe Christine Blasey Ford and her allegations against Brett Kavanaugh at the time, then you could not go down this sort of affirmative action road in which you lower the standards for Joe Biden just because he's a Democrat. When you wanted to see justice and you wanted to allow Christine Blasey Ford the opportunity to have her allegations aired, the allegations she made against Brett Kavanaugh, but you're not as forceful, but you're not as loud and as energetic and as passionately supporting those women now, and I believe it's up to 10 who've made sexual misconduct allegations against Joe Biden. You're fake and you're phony, and your cause is empty, and it's really transparent and easy for anybody to see. I acknowledge that there is a double standard at play here. Because there is a two-tier justice system. If you are a Democrat, then there are rules that do not apply to you in the same way that they apply to anyone in public life. They just so happen to be a Republican. I mean, it's a sleazy game. It is. The Me Too movement has been exposed for this. I mean, whenever it's politically expedient, they'll destroy anyone's life, just like they tried to destroy Brett Kavanaugh. We do not even know to this day if Christine Blasey Ford even knew the man. But we have footage, we have video, we have audio of Joe Biden saying ridiculously asinine things. I mean, touching women. And we also have women who've repeatedly said that they felt uncomfortable in those positions. But again, Joe Biden is a Democrat, and it just looks like the only thing that matters, as you said, is defeating Donald Trump. I mean, the victims or those people making the allegations be damned.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting next 5 months, especially if the campaigns finally are able to get back on the trail and Joe Biden has to finally come out of his basement. It's going to be a very interesting next 5 months.
He did.
That's
on
true.
Memorial Day.
That's true. And he wore that mask and you couldn't understand what he was saying.
Well, and that's the thing. You can barely understand what he's saying when he doesn't have the mask on.
That's true. All right, Jerome Hudson, he's entertainment editor at Breitbart News, and he wrote a really good piece, A Deplorable Moment for Every Black American in This Country. He wrote that May 22nd. I urge everyone to check it out. This is the Kyle Olson Show. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.